Welcome back. I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector, back with another What If for one of the Friday the 13th movies. And this week we're doing Friday the 13th Part 3, originally released in 3D. Yes, and I did see it in 3D and when it came out in the theater. And the 3D, I can live without 3D. 3D actually annoys me. I think those red and blue glasses give me more of a headache than enhance anything. But one of my favorites in the franchise. Stands out to me because it's very, as you can see, I'm that Halloween movie collector, Halloween fanatic. This was the one that was very Halloween centric. The very beginning of it, where he's hiding without the mask, hiding behind all the laundry, and you see him in shadows, and you see him from behind. Very reminiscent of Halloween, the way John Carpenter shot from those points of view. So I always liked that. Plus, this is one of my favorite Jasons. Richard Brooker was one of my favorite Jasons. I just loved his big shoulders and traps and just the way he just walked. He just glided. Very Nick Castle-ish. So that's why I loved. That's why it's one of my favorites in this franchise. But I picked out 10 what ifs. So these videos are what ifs, meaning what if something in the film happened differently than it did? How would it have turned out? So it's just a fun little exercise just to see what would have happened if things were just a little bit different. And some of these videos, not necessarily this one, would make the movies a little bit better. So go back and watch my Halloween, all my what ifs. I did them for every one of the movies in the Halloween franchise. So if you're a Halloween guy, check it out. If you're a Friday guy, hang out and let's do this. So, my number one. So, of course, all the Friday the 13th films always, well, especially the earlier ones, always started with an exposition of where they showed you what happened from the previous film to give you a little bit of the backstory just in case you hadn't seen any other films, which I always thought was kind of cool. And this one is no exception. It gives you the ending of what happens to Ginny and the end of Friday the 13th Part 2, which is actually my favorite one in the franchise. And they show all that before it leads into the 3D title card. But in this film, Chris has this whole backstory that we've never seen before. This backstory that she was in the woods, she was attacked by Jason, didn't know what happened. Somehow he attacked her, he grabbed her, she passed out, and somehow, some way, she wakes up and she's with her parents, and nobody ever speaks about it again. Doesn't make sense to me, because Jason doesn't leave survivors. I mean, you're going to have the occasional final girl at the end of it, but during the film, nobody survives. It's just the way it works. So that didn't make any sense to me. Where this came from, how this storyline came. I mean, I understand that Amy Steele didn't want to come back, so they had to come out with something different, which I do like this film. That was the only thing that stuck out that was a little odd to me. So my number one is, what if it started out where you saw what happened to Chris and Jason? Because you later on when she's talking to Rick and they're having that moment and she's flashing back and you're seeing images of that. What if it opened with that? It would have made a little bit more sense because you would have saw it. Because until the point of exposition when she's telling Rick about it, you don't know what the hell she went through or what's so odd about this. So to me, that would have made a little bit more sense. My number two. So here is the film where you get the iconic hockey mask that is synonymous with the Friday the 13th franchise. And it doesn't make its appearance till Part 3. So my what if is, what if Jason took Shelly's clear mask? Now, if you remember when they were going to pick up Vera, you remember when they see Shelly come out of the van and he's got the clear mask on and he's going to attack them because he just plays pranks, for attention. What if that clear mask, which you've seen in horror films before, what if that clear mask turned out to be the mask throughout the film? Might have looked pretty weird because you remember how messed up, especially at the end of this film when you see Jason's face. What that would have looked like through that clear mask with how it would have been distorted would have been pretty wacky. My number three. So now you see there's the whole scene with the couple that have that fruit stand, vegetable stand store, and Jason goes and kills them. And as they're driving, they see remember the cop car comes behind them. And they start eating all the marijuana because they're thinking that he's chasing them. But they're running to get to the convenience store because of the murders that happened there. They found him. What if that didn't happen? What if they stopped at that convenience store for supplies and found nobody there? Thought it was odd. Why would the store be completely abandoned? They didn't necessarily have to find the bodies because it's too early in the film to raise a red flag. Because if they would have found dead bodies, they never would have went. They would have said, screw this, we're out of here. I'm out of here. But it would have been cool because they could have been like, this is weird. Where are all the people? And not find the bodies. So that it would have added a little bit of a sense of dread. Just thought about that. So my number 4. So when Shelly and Vera go off to that convenience store to go get supplies in the VW, and they come across those bikers. And of course, the whole scene plays out. We got the bikers are assholes, and then he backs into their motorcycle, and then they crack the windshield. All that shit happens, and then of course the bikers get pissed and they chase him to the cabin. And their idea is they took all the gas out of the van, and they were going to go pour it in the barn, and I guess eventually set the barn on fire to teach them a lesson. What if they encountered Jason and they fought Jason? Right? I mean, you have the one guy who fought at the very end because he was still alive, which would have made sense because Jason was just hacking away at him, hitting him. And, he cuts his arm off, right before he attacks Chris in the barn towards the end of the film. What if they encountered Jason and they fought him? And especially without the mask. It would have been a pretty cool fight scene. He would have kicked their ass, but it would have been a cool fight scene inside the barn. My number 5. So the part where Jason gets the iconic mask, obviously we know he gets it from Shelly. Shelly scares the shit out of Vera at the lake. Jumps up and grabs her. And of course she's like, why do you have to do that? Just be yourself. And of course he gets all upset. And then you see him walk away, and he walks towards the barn, and he's looking at the barn. He sees the door moving a little bit, and he's just a little suspicious. So he walks up to the barn. And now this is one of the off-screen. It's not necessarily off-screen death because he does come back later, and they think he's playing a prank. So there he obviously gets attacked by Jason, and somehow, some way he survives, which, Jason doesn't leave survivors. Eventually he does die, obviously, later in the film when they realize he's actually dead and he's not playing a joke. What if we saw Jason attack him, right? And take the iconic mask from him? What if he killed Shelly and you see him put the mask on for the very first time? Sort of like that very iconic scene from Halloween 2018 when Michael gets the mask out of the reporter's trunk at the gas station, and you see him put it on. I think that would have been an iconic moment where he puts on the hockey mask for the first time. Now, granted, when this movie came out, we didn't know this was going to be the iconic image going forward, but it still would have been pretty cool. My number 6. Now, you see when Jason comes in the house, he's walking around, slunking around, and he goes upstairs, and you see him and hear him around when Debbie's taking her shower, played by Tracy Savage. And I'm a big fan of shower scenes. You get to see some boobage. And she's talking back and forth to Andy, the kid that just keeps walking on his hands. One of the iconic deaths that's going to be coming up. That was awesome. And he's asking, do you want me to get you a beer? And she's going back and forth. What if he went down to get the beer? And what if Jason killed Debbie in the shower? That would have been a cool shower scene kill. Could have been almost like a Psycho type shower kill. I thought that would have been cool because you know why? Because you get her later on in the hammock, and it's the same old kill from that we had like in the last 2 movies, where somebody's laying down and boom, he comes and stabs her from behind. It's been there, wash, rinse, repeat. We saw it. Would have been cool to see her get killed in the shower. And it could have been an homage to Psycho. So number 7, later on, after Chris and Rick come back from sitting by the lake and talking about what happened to her, and they go inside and they see, what's going on in here, and they think it's just weird and there's nobody around, and they're hearing things, and he goes outside to investigate, and then you see her calling for him, and she's like, Rick, where are you, Rick? And you see him off to her left, but our right. Jason's got his mouth covered because he's holding on to him because he's going to kill him, and you see him trying to get away. What if she walked and turned around and saw, just as Jason was squeezing his head, and his eyes bulge out, that cheesy 3D effect, if she turned the corner and saw that, his death and the eyes bulge out, that would have been kind of cool. My number 8. So later on in the film, when Jason is chasing Chris, and he's attacking her in the barn, and she pushes him out of the top of the barn and hangs him, and she opens up the doors and he's hanging. All of a sudden he comes to life again, and then he lifts up his mask to show his face to her, to say, hey. And she's like, it can't be you, and it's you, it's him. What if before he died, what if she came and took the mask off to see it was him, And then he started to attack her again, because it would have been, I think, a little bit more of a shock when she lifted up the mask and been like, holy shit, it's that guy again, and took the mask. Because later on, when she's hallucinating and she's in the canoe and she thinks she sees him chasing it, he doesn't have his mask. Well, he had his mask on the whole time. Why all of a sudden didn't he have the mask on? What if she had taken the mask and she had it with her and she was in the canoe with it, holding on to it? And when you see at the very end, when Mrs. Voorhees, which was retarded because she had her head taken off, attacks, she's like grabbing for the mask, sort of to take it back, to give it to her son. My number 9 is piggybacked right off of that. What if Jason attacked her in the canoe and it wasn't a dream? What if he came after her and she thought it was? What if it was? It could have been the scene where she thinks he's chasing, and then she wakes up and he's not. Then he busts out the door and he is there and he's chasing her and he's coming after her to get the mask. That would have been a little bit better, because he could have attacked her in there and it could have just been that scene. And maybe even had Mrs. Voorhees come up and it could have been the duo. But I think that would have played out a little bit better had she had the mask, and if she would have thought she was dreaming at first, and then the second time around she thought she was dreaming again, but it wasn't a dream. And my number 10, which was something that always bothered me about the ending of this film. So at the ending of the film, you see them come, they take Chris away. You don't know what happened to her. It's sort of like the same thing that happened with Amy Steele, very ambiguous. Same thing that happened at the end of part 1 when she gets attacked by young Jason and she disappears in the hospital. They take her away and the police, driving away, and then you see it pan over to the barn and there's Jason with the axe in his head. Where are the cops? Where is everybody? Where are the police lines? Where's people taking pictures? This guy's got an axe in his head. He just killed a bunch of people. Yeah, I get it. Take her to the hospital, make sure everything's okay. But everybody just leaves and leaves this guy with an axe hanging out of his head in the goddamn in the barn. Like, it would have made more sense if people cleared out and maybe there was a handful of police there and Jason gets up and attacks them and kills them, and then you see him take off. Because, you're going to assume he's probably still alive because that's what happens in Jason films. And this was only the third one in the franchise. We didn't know how long this was going to go on. But you could presume he's dead. And I guess maybe that's what they wanted. They wanted you to think he was dead, and then, boom, we're going to come back with the final chapter. I get that. But I don't know. I just thought it would have been cool because nobody's around this body. Nobody's there taking care of it. They just all drive away. And this guy in a hockey mask is sitting there with an axe in his head. Yeah, a little strange to me. So those are my 10 what-ifs for Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D from 1982. Let me know your 10 what-ifs for this film. Or just a couple. Drop a couple in there that you said, maybe if they did it this way or did it that way, would have been cool. Might have added to it. And see if any of them are ones I thought of or completely different ones. Just drop them in the comments below. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Helps people find this channel. I love doing these what-ifs. I'll probably do final chapter, maybe in a week or two. It all depends. I tried to do these weekly, but I just don't seem to have the time these days. So do me a favor. If you like these what-ifs, you like Halloween, you like horror, you like music, you like podcasts about all this shit, think about hitting that subscribe button. Don't cost nothing. A lot of cool stuff coming up. We have a new podcast coming out about Halloween collectibles. We have our weekly That Horror Movie podcast every Sunday night. We watch a horror movie every Tuesday night. And there's just a lot of shit. Walk around on the channel, you're bound to step in a bunch of shit. So I hope you enjoyed this What If for Friday the 13th. I'll be back with Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, week or two, depending on when I get time. And until then, I hope I see you then. And I'll talk to you soon.